Hey, how's it going, friends? Thank you for tuning in. It is January 17th, the year of our Lord 2023. A couple of days ago, around 3 or 4 days ago, I uploaded a video talking about the first wave of missile strikes that Russia had launched this year, 2023. As you can see here on my YouTube channel, Russia launches a new wave of missile strikes. Now, this was covered pretty much by all mainstream media news outlets, and according to reports, most of these missiles were aimed at infrastructure there in Ukraine, right? Such as power plants, plants that produce electricity, and they in fact did strike a lot of the objectives, and so they were without electricity in a lot of cities, as they have been for quite a while now, because last year Russia launched many missile attacks on these infrastructure objectives, but apparently one of these missiles landed on a residential building, as you can see here in the city of Dnipro. So if we take a look at Google Maps, this is Ukraine, as you can see here. Here's the Donetsk and Luhansk area down here. You can see right here is Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. So this whole area over here is where, Russia is pretty much advancing and now has control of the area. But as we see here, Dnipro isn't too far away. So one of these missiles apparently landed on an apartment building here. Now, it was very devastating, as we can see reports here. This is literally from a couple of hours ago. As of right now, the death toll seems to be around 40. This is according to the New York Times. It says, death toll of Russian strike in Dnipro rises to 40, Ukraine says. The authorities said 34 people remained missing after 3 days of searching for the living and the dead at an apartment building struck by a Russian missile in Dnipro. Now, there's footage of this. It's pretty terrible. I think they just found the body of a child there, so this is terrible indeed. These were innocent people living in their apartment, and when this missile landed there, it completely obliterated like the whole center section of the area. As you can see, we have a lot of casualties there, and probably more to come. Now, originally, right after this attack, one of Zelensky's advisors came out on a interview here, and he said that what happened is that one of these Russian missiles, which was headed for an infrastructure objective, was actually shot down by the air missile defense systems of the Ukrainians. And so the missile, when it was hit and shot down, it landed on the apartment building, which sounds pretty reasonable if most of the other targets that were struck were energy infrastructures. But Zelensky and the Ukrainian administration, they pretty much went AWOL. They started calling this dude a traitor and an idiot. And so immediately after that, he came out with a resignation letter and he resigned. But now, since he resigned, now he's attacking Zelensky and pretty much calling him an idiot for all the decisions he's making and everything taking place, in Ukraine right now. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at this video where he says that this missile was in fact shot down by Ukraine. And then we'll read the rest of the article where now he's criticizing Zelensky. So let's go ahead and take a look here.
Ну, то есть возможности в Днепре сбить вот эту ракету хорошей возможности не было?
Нет, по ее сбили, она упала на подъезд.
Она упала на подъезд.
Да, ну.
You can see right there this interviewer here asks him, so it was impossible to shoot down that missile in Dnipro?
То есть возможности в Днепре сбить вот эту ракету хорошей возможности не было.
So this guy's trying to infer, right? He's pretty much trying to tell him oh, well, this missile was impossible to shoot down, right? It was the Russians that purposely launched it, right? And he still goes on and counters him, and he says, no, it was shot down. It fell on the building.
Нет, по ее сбили, она упала на подъезд.
Она упала на подъезд.
Да, она взорвалась.
You can see there he says when it fell, it exploded. Again, this is a video that uh, made him resign because pretty much everybody in Ukraine, was speaking out against this as false information here. And again, this guy has been an advisor to Zelensky throughout the war. So there you have it. Right after that, I believe some Ukrainian politician called him a traitor. He started asking for signatures to call for his resignation on the basis of him being a traitor. So apparently doing some honest reporting now is considered being treacherous. But you see, this was a, however horrible the loss of life is here, which indeed it is, the fact that this guy was saying that the Ukrainians shot it down didn't make it seem as bad. But if you go along with the mainstream media, or with what the Ukrainian government wants you to think, it was supposedly a direct, purposeful attack or targeting by the Russians on this apartment building full of civilians, even though all the other missiles landed on energy infrastructure, right? But the reason they're trying to say that it was purposefully targeted is because that'll make, they think that's going to make the Americans and all the other nations, send more of their weapons more quickly. Which again, pretty much all Western mainstream media is reporting on this and making it seem like Russia did purposely target this civilian building there, and it is causing some shock amongst the populace of those countries and the politicians, and so they're kind of saying, oh man, we need to take a harder stance right now. Russia's a terrorist state. They're absolutely evil. They're launching these very powerful missiles at apartment buildings now. So you see what Russia's doing. They're going to do this to you soon. We need to send more weapons. We need to defeat the Russians. It's almost like, the perfect opportunity to put pressure on America and all these other nations so that they can send more weapons, which Ukraine has been literally begging for. But anyways, right after this man resigned, it appears now that he is criticizing Zelensky, according to War News 24/7 here, and there's actually a video of an interview here where we can see the statements that he made. So let's go ahead and read on here. The advisor to the Ukrainian presidency, Oleksii Arestovych, launched a fierce attack on Volodymyr Zelensky, calling him an idiot and accusing him of declaring war on Christianity. The knives came out within the Ukrainian leadership. Perhaps after all, Arestovych had been preparing his resignation for some time in an attempt to distance himself from Kyiv leadership. So some people are speculating that, the ship is sinking, so the rats are starting to flee. Does he know anything? Is he afraid of what is coming, and what will his future hold? Probably yes. The video revealed by War News 24/7, again, this is a Greek news source, a Greek website, is revealing and leaves no room for misinterpretation. Arestovych launches an unprecedented attack on Zelensky for many of his decisions and actions, which he describes as stupid and much worse. Earlier today, Arestovych resigned after being criticized for saying that Ukraine has shot down a Russian missile that hit an apartment building in Dnipro, killing dozens of people. Arestovych tells the reporter, "What do we do with the post-Soviet identity or regional identity, in addition to threats, fines, and public condemnation? What do we want from these people? Understanding? To the people whom we condemn, we say, you are blank, change your identities, or we will hunt you down. You help Russia, you want the death of everything in Ukraine? And then do we want them to support us? This is madness. The other is also heard. Let them go to Russia." And then the reporter says, so they're going to Russia, or they will bring Russia here. And then what? Who is the idiot in this situation? Or actually, this is Arestovych still. Do you understand? We have an absurd national policy, a regional policy, a labor policy, and self-determination. Even the USSR was doing better in these areas than us. There are no official languages in Israel, but the second language that is actually used everywhere is Arabic. It is the language of their enemies. Perhaps the Jews know and understand something that we do not. We say that all Russians are bad and there are no good Russians, but how do the Russian-speaking Ukrainians living here hear us? What are they listening to? That is the enemy. He takes out his Ukrainian passport, remembers his cousin died near Bakhmut, a Russian speaker who served in the armed forces of Ukraine, and says, blank this country. So he's pretty much criticizing the sentiment there in Ukraine, especially by the administration. They're trying to paint all Russians as evil, which, he's pretty much saying this is kind of stupid. We have a lot of Russian-speaking people, right, with Russian ties living in our country, so are they supposed to be evil also? But anyways, let's actually take a look at the video so you can hear it directly from the man himself. Now, of course, you got to take a read here. There are any of you who speak this man's language here. If you could verify in the comments that what is being translated here is correct, I would very much appreciate it. But let's take a look here at him criticizing Zelensky. Again, this was Zelensky's former advisor.
Во сколько не цілуй, везде буде жопа. А як ми працюємо з пострадянською ідентичністю або регіональною ідентичністю, окрім загроз, штрафів і суспільного засудження? Що ми хочемо від цих людей? Що розуміння? Що людей, на яких ми засуджуємо, які ми кажемо, ви мудаки, зміняйте самоідентифікацію, а іначе ми за себе не відповідаємо, що ви от привели сюди Росію, ви, значить, ви там, значить, сприяєте Росії, ви, значить, хочете смерті всього українського, за вас гинуть наші хлопці і так далі, і так далі. Ми хочемо, щоб вони після цього були за нас. Це ж божевілля взагалі.
Є такий наратив, хай їдуть в Росію.
Вони і поїдуть в Росію. Або зроблять так, щоб Росія приїхала сюди. І що тоді? Хто ідіот в цій ситуації? Розумієте? У нас дуже нерозумна національна політика і регіональна політика. Взагалі, не національна політика роботи з ідентифікацією. Навіть Радянський Союз краще її проводив, ніж ми. Що в Ізраїлі нема офіційних мов, але друга мова фактично, яка повсюди використовується, арабська, тобто мова їх ворогів. Може, євреї трохи щось знають, розуміють, чого не знаємо ми. Відділяємо. Ми кажемо, що всі росіяни погані і хороших росіян не існує. А як чують нас етнічні росіяни в Україні? Або російськомовні? Що вони чують? Ви вороги. Він достає свій український паспорт, він пригадує двоюродного брата, який загинув під Бахмутом, будучи російськомовним солдатом ЗСУ, і каже, да пошла нам нахер та страна з такими подачами. А їхати нема куди, і він залишається в Україні, але в скритій опозиції до України. Тому що Україна поводиться як повні мудаки зі своїми собственними громадянами. Оце і все, що є. Зеленський оголосив війну християнству. Це коли Служба безпеки зайшла в Києво-Печерську лавру і в інші лаври. В Українську церкву Московського патріархату. Зважаючи на складні процеси, які там відбуваються, і на те, щоб поступово перетягувати, а це завжди непростий процес, перетягувати їх на свій бік, ті, хто за нас, і жорстко репресувати тих, хто в діями вчиняє проти України, чи огульно записати всі 1,6 мільйонів наших громадян в російських агентів і сволочей, які туди ходять, з покарання.
Now, interestingly enough, you see him criticize Zelensky's attack on the Orthodox churches there in Ukraine that are Russian in nature. Now, I do agree with him. That is a very big mistake on Zelensky's part. Even Hitler was, he commented and said that you never go against the religious institutions in any nation, because, again, that's when you can have the people, the populace, turn on you. And so eventually, I think that's what's going to happen. I think the people are going to revolt against Zelensky because of his decisions, and they're going to start to protest, riots, and eventually he's going to have to flee the country. But you can see here a former advisor to Zelensky who got fired for saying that the missile there on the Dnipro was shot down by Ukraine and then fell on the apartment resigned because of that. And again, what he said isn't like it's not that terrible, right? Like this happens in war. You have missiles coming in, you shoot them down, and sometimes they land on apartment buildings. But how does the Zelensky government benefit from the story that no, this was Russia purposely targeting this apartment building with hundreds of residents there trying to live their lives? How does this benefit them? Well, they can show this to the Americans, to the Western powers, and say, look, Russia is attacking innocents. They are carrying out terrorist attacks. You need to help us quickly. How can you allow this evil? And that's exactly what all these mainstream Western sources are reporting this as. They haven't been reporting much on Solidar, on all these other, on all this other news that YouTubers and independent news sources are reporting on, because it doesn't benefit them at all. It doesn't shed a good light on the situation. But whenever you see this, right, news like this, you immediately see them jump on it, right? And so, this is, what can we infer from all of this? Well, we know that definitely a missile hit this apartment building, and a lot of innocent people inside of there died. Now, we can't verify whether Russia targeted this building on purpose, but I think it's pretty logical to think that if this was a missile wave that they launched, and all the other missiles hit energy infrastructures except one of them, and then this advisor came out in a video and said that the reason that one missile hit that apartment building was because the Ukrainian air defenses shot it down, then that would be very reasonable. That makes sense, right? Based on the fact that all the other missiles hit energy infrastructure. But I think that, the Ukrainian government is trying to take advantage of any occurrence like this and try to paint Russia as a terrorist state, as Russia deliberately attacking these apartment buildings, which is really not going to do anything for Russia. It just doesn't make sense why they would attack these buildings. If you think about it, they could have launched all of the missiles at different apartment buildings, but they chose to launch only one of them. Just doesn't make sense. But again, like in all wars, both sides will try to paint each other in the worst of terrible terms, and so I think that's what Ukraine is doing right here. They're trying to make Russia seem like a terrorist state, right? Like they are purposely attacking these innocent people living out their lives in the midst of a war, or trying to live about in these apartment buildings. And so that's all the Americans need, right? That's all that the Western powers need. They're not going to do any hard investigating or anything. This is the kind of news they want to report on also. So at the end of the day, it's just an echo chamber from their side. But the fact of the matter is that these things happen in war. We've seen multiple reports throughout all the times that the American forces, such as in Iraq or Afghanistan, have accidentally literally launched drone strikes on like the wrong people, sometimes even entire families. And you don't really see the mainstream media reporting on that pretty hard, right? Because they're going to cover their own, right? And this is exactly what's happening here. Was this terrible? Yes, it was terrible. Do I believe that Russia purposely targeted them? No, because the rest of the missiles hit energy infrastructure. Do I think it really matters? No, it really doesn't matter. Even if Zelensky and his government, went along with what the advisor said here, they would have still tried to cast all the culpability on the Russians. And so again, it really doesn't matter, but it's very revealing here that they're willing to fire an advisor, or rather pressure him into resigning, just because he was trying to be honest about what happened. But anyways, the truth is stranger than fiction. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.